When that phone call comes at 3 o'clock in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, I will be up and waiting for the call because I will know what's going on in the world around us. They won't have to get me out of bed.
Well, welcome back to Hardball. That was former Republican Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum at the Values Voters event earlier today in Washington. He's made a name for himself at the debates recently, but polls show him still at the bottom of the pack. The latest Washington Post ABC News poll has him running at 2% among Republicans, although these numbers do gyrate. Santorum would like to become the Mitt Romney alternative, wouldn't he? Welcome, Senator. What did you mean by you'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Are you a nocturnal creature or what?
Well, no. What I was saying is that, if something like that was going to occur, I'd probably have a better handle on it that I wouldn't have to be surprised to get out of bed. In other words, I would be up and on top of a situation when something bad was about to happen.
You were speaking in metaphors.
I was speaking in metaphors.
Let me ask you about this race here. It looks to me, the way I look at it is in sports terms. Romney's won the Eastern Conference. He's the moderate. And there's still a wide open battle for who's going to challenge him down the stretch, whether it's you or Perry or it's Bachmann or it's, in all fairness, Herman Cain.
Sure. No, I think that's an accurate assessment. I think, Mitt has established himself as the traditional candidate, the establishment candidate. And the question is, who's the conservative alternative? And, as you know, I've got a pretty good long track record of being a consistent conservative. And it's you and I don't agree on the issues, but I think you'd say, I've been a consistent conservative. I've led on those issues, and I've had my share of accomplishments in the process.
I know you're out campaigning, but I keep asking this show, I can't see how your party can go down to Tampa with all those Tea Party people are red hot and passionate about their beliefs, like you are, and getting excited about outsourcing the nomination to someone like Romney, a guy who would never go to a Tea Party meeting in a million years.
Yeah, I think if you look at the national polls, Mitt has trouble getting over 20 to 25%. I mean, he may hit 30. That means 65 to 75% of the people out there are looking for somebody else. And the question is, who is that alternative? And obviously, we think that national polls are nice, but it's how well you're going to do in Iowa, how well you're going to do in New Hampshire, and you walk through the process, and that's where we're focused on.
Okay, you've never been a rich guy. I don't think you have any big interest in big money. You've never been driven by that. So let's talk about this country's inequality situation. What's happening in New York on Wall Street are a bunch of people. Obviously, it's a disparate band of people, a motley crew, if you will. We don't know what they all stand for. Some of them may be anarchists, but a lot of them are just unemployed guys and women looking to make some noise about a terrible situation they're in. Now, my question to you is, what's your reaction when you see people in the streets about the inequality of income in this country?
Yeah, my reaction is that, people have, particularly going to Wall Street, that they have a legitimate reason to beef that you had a situation where Wall Street did a lot of things that they shouldn't have done. And very few people lost a lot of jobs in Wall Street because of that. And we bailed them out. The guys behind you in the White House, President Bush and Republicans and Democrats alike, bailed Wall Street out. And we see them sort of going on their merry way, big bonuses. And I don't. People do.
You wouldn't have bailed them out. I would have let them drop.
I said, look, the moral hazard means something. And if you're going to go out and do the kind of behavior that these folks did and play the kind of games that they knew they were playing, then someone needs to suffer the consequences, both financially and, if necessary, criminally. And basically people skirted, went off scot-free. And I can understand that frustration. If you look at the economic plan I put forward, Chris, it's an economic plan based on trying to grow the middle of America back. It's an economic plan based on getting manufacturing jobs back into this country. That's why I always say, we've got the plan that actually can get bipartisan support because it zeroes out corporate taxes for manufacturers and processors only because we want to be able to compete for those jobs back in America.
But the fact is that the American people don't like the idea of a tax system where the top people who make money off money are paying 15%. The people who make money off sweat and showing up at work are paying 35%.
Yeah.
Do you like that system?
Well, the top rate pays 35%, as you know.
No, of salary. But all the people in Wall Street living off the hedge fund money and carried interest, they're not paying 35%. They're paying squat.
They're paying capital gains just like Warren Buffett's paying.
And you like that idea?
The problem with that is that you look at
that's what they're complaining about on Wall Street.
No, I understand that, but you have to look at that as the price of capital and where capital can move to.
Yeah.
And our capital gains tax rates are not even at this rate particularly competitive with a lot of other countries. You have some countries that have a zero capital gains tax rate. So you have to compete for capital, and you have to have tax rates that make it competitive.
But how do you sell that to a guy or woman out there making 30 or 40 years,
how you sell it is
sweating, and say, that somebody making 20,000 times more that night are paying a much lower tax rate?
I would say two things you'd sell it to them. First off, you have almost half of America doesn't pay any federal income taxes. So a lot of the folks
more than that.
Well, no, it's about half. So you're talking about half of America that isn't hasn't paid any taxes. Right?
I'm talking about the guy and woman whose combined income's about 70. If they're both working, if they're lucky. Right.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. And the second thing I would say is what those people really want is an opportunity to rise. They want an opportunity to get into that middle income and higher. And that's what the economic plan that I laid out does.
I just want to answer one question. Do you think it's fair to tax people for people who make money off money lower than you tax people who make money off work?
I would say
that's the problem.
I would say the answer to that is that most Americans don't get taxed more because most Americans almost half Americans pay no income tax. And so the answer is the people who are paying those higher rates are wealthier people.
That's the part about I don't understand about you, why you defend the super rich getting away with no taxes.
It's not a matter of super rich, Chris. It's a matter of having a system that allows you to invest in capital and not penalize the return on capital.
Let's go to news just broke here. Robert Jeffress, who's the senior pastor at First Baptist Church down in Dallas. I don't know the man, but he just introduced Rick Perry at today's Values Summit today in Washington. Talking to reporters afterwards, Perry spoke. Pastor Jeffress called Mitt Romney's faith, Mormonism, the LDS Church, a cult. Let's listen. It's on tape.
Well, Rick Perry's a Christian. He's an evangelical Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ. Mitt Romney's a good, moral person, but he's not a Christian. Mormonism is not Christianity. It has always been considered a cult by the mainstream of Christianity. So it's the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian.
Well, a spokesman for Rick Perry later said, he told NBC by email, quote, the governor does not believe Mormonism is a cult. That's Rick Perry talking. You know, we were going over the numbers last time in 2008. Romney never carried a single southern state, never carried a border state, which tells me he does have this problem with evangelical Christians with his background.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I mean,
you think it's unfair to vote against him?
I do think it's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't think you should vote against anybody based on their religion. Mitt Romney is, as even the pastor said, is he a Christian? He's a good moral man.
Is he Christian?
He believes he's a Christian. I'm not an expert on the Mormon religion.
So you're hedging.
I'm not hedging.
I mean, it's every the Church Mormon, of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You don't believe that?
Every Mormon I know believes that they are Christian. I'm not an expert in Mormonism, so if they say they're Christians, as far as I'm concerned, they're Christians. If they say they believe in Jesus Christ, fine, they're Christians.
But they're not a cult.
No, they're not a cult. And I believe that people should, focus on the public policy, focus on his morality in his own life. And as far as I can see, it's a pretty good one.
We'd be better off not talking about some of these things sometimes in a political environment. Anyway, thank you, Rick Santorum.
You bet. My pleasure.